In a world filled with noise, constant notifications, endless scrolling, and competing demands for attention, the idea of focused success feels almost impossible. Yet long before smartphones, social media, and digital overload existed, Earl Nightingale warned humanity about the danger of distraction. He understood something timeless. Success is not destroyed by lack of talent, luck, or opportunity, but by lack of control over one's own thinking. Earl Nightingale's philosophy of success was not built for an easy world. It was built for a distracted one. Earl Nightingale did not begin life as a success icon. He was born in 1921 during a time of economic uncertainty. Like many of his generation, he grew up witnessing struggle, limitation, and instability. During World War II, he served in the U.S. Marine Corps, where he experienced fear, chaos, and the constant presence of danger. It was there, surrounded by destruction, that he began asking questions most people never stop to consider. Why do some men remain calm while others panic? Why do some rise above circumstances while others collapse under them? These questions planted the seeds of a philosophy that would later influence millions. After the war, Nightingale entered radio broadcasting. From the outside, his life appeared ordinary, but internally, he was studying human behavior obsessively. He read philosophy, psychology, economics, and the writings of thinkers like Napoleon Hill. What he discovered was simple, yet profound. The human mind, when left undirected, becomes the greatest source of failure. People drift. They react instead of choosing. They allow the world to shape their thoughts instead of shaping their future. This realization became the foundation of Earl Nightingale's philosophy. He believed that distraction was not merely external noise. It was internal confusion. Long before the modern attention crisis, he observed that people spend most of their lives responding to emergencies rather than pursuing meaningful goals. They wake up without purpose, consume information without intention, and end their days exhausted, but unfulfilled. According to Nightingale, this was not an accident. It was the natural result of living without a clearly defined aim. One of his most powerful teachings was that success begins with clarity. In a distracted world, clarity is rare. Most people know what they want to avoid, but very few know what they truly want to achieve. Nightingale argued that without a definite purpose, the mind becomes a playground for fear, doubt, and external influence. News, opinions, problems, and entertainment rush in to fill the vacuum. The individual becomes busy, but not productive, active, but not progressing. Earl Nightingale famously said that we become what we think about most of the time. This idea formed the core of his historic recording, The Strangest Secret. But in the context of distraction, this statement becomes even more powerful. If a person constantly thinks about problems, chaos, and negativity, their life will reflect exactly that. If their attention is scattered across meaningless pursuits, their results will be equally scattered. Nightingale taught that attention is life's most valuable currency. Whatever you give it to, you give your future to. Unlike many motivational figures who relied on hype or emotion, Nightingale emphasized discipline of thought. He believed motivation was useless without direction. In a world full of distractions, emotional excitement fades quickly, but disciplined thinking endures. He encouraged people to guard their minds carefully, just as they would protect a valuable asset. This meant being selective about what they listened to, what they read, and who they allowed to influence them. Another central pillar of Nightingale's philosophy was delayed gratification. He understood that distractions promise instant pleasure, but steal long-term success. While others chase entertainment and comfort, successful individuals quietly invest in growth. Nightingale taught that success requires the ability to focus on a future reward while ignoring present temptations. This was not about denying joy, but about prioritizing purpose over impulse. He also believed that most people fail not because life is hard, but because they are mentally undisciplined. They start strong, but quit when boredom arrives. They set goals, but abandon them when distractions become louder than their dreams. Nightingale warned that the modern world would reward focus and punish drift. Those who could concentrate on one meaningful goal would rise, while those who scattered their energy would remain average. At the heart of Earl Nightingale's philosophy was personal responsibility. He rejected the idea that circumstances control destiny. Instead, he insisted that individuals choose their responses, their thoughts, and their direction. In a distracted world, taking responsibility is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. But Nightingale believed that freedom begins the moment a person accepts responsibility for their inner world. This philosophy was not theory. It was lived experience. Nightingale built Nightingale Conant into one of the most influential personal development companies in history, not by chasing trends, but by committing to timeless principles. He practiced what he taught: focus, consistency, and clarity of purpose. While others reacted to the noise of the world, he remained anchored in his mission to teach people how to think. And this is why Earl Nightingale's message is more relevant today than ever before. In an age where distractions are engineered to steal attention, his philosophy stands as a guide for those who seek meaningful success. He did not teach people how to escape the world, but how to master themselves within it. Earl Nightingale often reminded his audience that success is never an accident. It is always the result of conscious choice. In a world full of distractions, this idea becomes even more powerful, because most people do not choose their lives. They inherit them through habit. They wake up, respond to messages, handle urgencies, and move from one reaction to another, believing they are busy when in reality they are drifting. Nightingale called this condition the most dangerous state a human being can live in, because drift feels safe while silently leading nowhere. According to Nightingale, the primary enemy of success is not failure, but unconscious living. He believed that distraction is simply a modern name for unconsciousness. When people allow external forces to dominate their attention, they surrender their ability to think independently. Nightingale warned that if you do not deliberately plant ideas in your mind, the world will plant them for you, and most of those ideas will not serve your growth. News thrives on fear, entertainment thrives on escape, and society thrives on conformity. Success, however, requires individuality of thought. One of Nightingale's strongest principles was the power of goals. He taught that a goal acts like a filter in a noisy world. When a person has a clear objective, distractions lose their power because the mind knows what matters and what does not. Without a goal, everything feels equally important, and the individual becomes overwhelmed. Nightingale believed that a clearly written goal, reviewed daily, was one of the most powerful tools a human being could use to regain control of attention. He often explained that the human mind cannot focus on two major things at the same time. It will always prioritize what it considers most important. This is why Nightingale insisted that people must elevate their goals above their fears, comforts, and distractions. If entertainment is more important than growth, entertainment will win. If comfort is more important than discipline, comfort will dominate. Success, in his philosophy, is simply the outcome of correct priorities consistently practiced. Earl Nightingale also spoke deeply about environment, not just physical environment, but mental and emotional surroundings. He observed that most people live in environments that constantly pull them away from excellence. Negative conversations, pessimistic opinions, and aimless activities slowly shape a person's thinking. Nightingale taught that winners are not smarter, they are more selective. They choose their influences carefully, understanding that repeated exposure shapes belief, and belief shapes behavior. In a distracted world, Nightingale's advice was radical. Schedule time for thinking. He believed that thinking was the most profitable activity a person could engage in, yet the least practiced. Most people are so consumed by activity that they never stop to ask whether their actions are aligned with their purpose. Nightingale encouraged individuals to spend quiet time each day reflecting on their goals, evaluating their progress, and correcting their course. This habit alone, he believed, separated leaders from followers. Another key aspect of his philosophy was self-image. Nightingale understood that distractions do not just steal time. They erode confidence. Constant comparison, noise, and external validation weaken a person's belief in their own potential. Nightingale taught that success begins the moment a person decides to see themselves as capable, disciplined, and worthy of achievement. Without a strong self-image, even the best opportunities will be wasted. He emphasized that repetition is the architect of identity. Whatever a person repeatedly thinks, hears, and says becomes their reality. This is why he encouraged the use of positive, purposeful affirmations, not as empty optimism, but as mental conditioning. In a distracted world, the mind is constantly being programmed by outside forces. Nightingale believed that intentional repetition was the only way to regain control of that programming. Earl Nightingale also rejected the myth of overnight success. He warned that distraction feeds impatience, and impatience kills progress. People want results without process, rewards without discipline. Nightingale taught that success is always the result of small, consistent actions performed daily. While others jump from one idea to another, chasing shortcuts, successful individuals remain loyal to their plan even when progress seems slow. He often said that most people overestimate what they can do in a short time and underestimate what they can do over years of focused effort. Distraction destroys this long-term vision. It pulls attention toward immediate gratification and away from meaningful achievement. Nightingale believed that those who master patience gain an unfair advantage in life, because they are willing to do what others are unwilling to sustain. At its core, Earl Nightingale's philosophy of success was about mastery of self. He did not teach people how to fight the world, but how to rise above its noise. He believed that success belongs to those who can remain calm in chaos, focused in confusion, and disciplined in a world addicted to distraction. His message was clear. The world will always try to pull your attention outward, but success demands that you turn it inward. The ability to think, choose, and persist is the greatest skill a human being can develop. And in a world full of distractions, it is also the rarest. Earl Nightingale believed that the true battlefield of success is not the economy, competition, or circumstance, but the human mind. In a world overflowing with distractions, this battlefield becomes more crowded and more dangerous than ever. Nightingale observed that most people do not lose because they are defeated, but because they are diverted. Their energy leaks in too many directions, leaving nothing strong enough to build a meaningful life. One of Nightingale's most overlooked teachings was his emphasis on order. He believed that success requires a structured inner life. Distractions thrive in chaos, and chaos thrives where there is no system. Nightingale encouraged people to design their days intentionally, rather than allowing days to design them. He taught that when a person begins each day with purpose, the noise of the world loses its ability to control them. He often spoke about the difference between motion and progress. Distraction creates motion, but only focus creates progress. People rush, multitask, and exhaust themselves, yet remain in the same place year after year. Nightingale warned that busyness is one of the most deceptive traps of modern life. It gives the illusion of importance while quietly stealing results. According to him, successful people simplify. They reduce complexity and focus on the few activities that truly move their lives forward. Another critical principle in Nightingale's philosophy was the law of cause and effect. He believed that every result has a mental cause. Success is not something that happens to people. It is something that flows from the way they think and act consistently. Distraction disrupts this law by breaking consistency. When effort is scattered, results become unpredictable. Nightingale taught that focused effort, applied over time, always produces success, just as surely as a seed produces its harvest. Earl Nightingale also warned against the danger of emotional distraction. Not all distractions are external. Worry, fear, regret, and resentment consume enormous mental energy. Nightingale believed that emotional discipline was just as important as mental focus. He taught that successful individuals learn to let go of what they cannot control and concentrate fully on what they can. Dwelling on the past or fearing the future only weakens the present moment, where all progress is made. He placed great importance on the ability to think independently. In a distracted world, opinions spread faster than truth. Nightingale cautioned against blindly following the crowd, reminding people that the majority is often wrong when it comes to success. He believed that greatness requires the courage to think differently, to pursue goals that others may not understand, and to remain committed even when validation is absent. Nightingale also spoke about the role of faith, not religious faith alone, but faith in process. He believed that people abandon their goals because they lose faith when results are not immediate. Distraction magnifies doubt by constantly presenting alternative paths, new ideas, and conflicting advice. Nightingale taught that once a person chooses a goal, they must trust the process and stay the course. Success, in his philosophy, rewards loyalty to purpose. One of his most powerful lessons was that the mind cannot be idle. If it is not directed, it will wander. Distraction is simply the mind wandering without leadership. Nightingale urged people to take command of their thoughts through reading, study, and deliberate input. He believed that feeding the mind with quality ideas daily was essential to maintaining focus in a noisy world. He also emphasized the importance of personal standards. Distraction lowers standards by normalizing mediocrity. When everyone is distracted, average behavior feels acceptable. Nightingale challenged individuals to raise their expectations of themselves, regardless of what others were doing. He taught that success begins when a person refuses to live at the level of the crowd. Earl Nightingale's philosophy also highlighted the importance of persistence. Focus without persistence fades, and persistence without focus wastes effort. He believed that the combination of clear purpose and sustained effort was unstoppable. Distractions test persistence by offering easier paths and temporary comfort. Nightingale taught that those who learn to endure boredom, resistance, and slow progress develop a strength that others lack. He often said that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. This meant that success is not a destination, but a process. In a distracted world, people are obsessed with outcomes and neglect the journey. Nightingale believed that true fulfillment comes from knowing that each day's actions align with one's purpose, regardless of external results. At its deepest level, Earl Nightingale's philosophy of success was a call to wake up. He urged people to stop living on autopilot and start living deliberately. Distraction, he believed, was the greatest thief of human potential because it robs people of awareness. Awareness, in turn, is the foundation of choice, and choice is the foundation of freedom. His message remains timeless. You cannot control the world, but you can control your response to it. You cannot eliminate distractions, but you can rise above them, and in doing so, you reclaim the power to shape your own destiny. Earl Nightingale understood that discipline is the bridge between intention and achievement. In a world full of distractions, intention alone is weak. Many people have dreams, plans, and ideas, but very few have the discipline to protect them. Nightingale taught that discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. It is the ability to do what must be done, even when distractions offer an easier escape. He believed that one of the greatest misconceptions about success is that it requires extraordinary talent. Nightingale argued that success requires ordinary abilities applied in an extraordinary way. Distraction convinces people that they need more information, more tools, or better circumstances, when in reality, they need better focus. According to Nightingale, the difference between average and successful people is rarely intelligence. It is consistency of effort. Nightingale also emphasized the role of habits in shaping destiny. He believed that habits are the invisible architecture of life. Distractions become powerful when they turn into habits. Mindless scrolling, constant entertainment, endless reaction to external stimuli. Nightingale taught that habits can be redesigned through the awareness and repetition. By consciously choosing productive habits, individuals slowly replace distraction with direction. One of his most practical teachings was the concept of self-leadership. Nightingale believed that before a person can lead others, they must first lead themselves. This means setting personal rules, boundaries, and standards. In a distracted world, boundaries are essential. Without them, time and energy are consumed by demands that do not serve long-term goals. Nightingale taught that saying no is often the most powerful act of self-discipline. He also spoke about the importance of solitude. Not isolation, but intentional quiet time. Nightingale believed that silence strengthens focus and clarity. In silence, the mind organizes itself. In noise, it fragments. He encouraged people to spend time alone with their thoughts, reflecting, planning, and reinforcing their vision. This practice, he believed, restored mental balance in a chaotic world. Earl Nightingale was deeply aware of the economic pressures that distract people from their purpose. He did not ignore the reality of bills, responsibilities, and obligations. However, he taught that survival thinking traps people in short-term cycles. Those who focus only on immediate needs rarely escape them. Nightingale believed that success requires long-term thinking even in difficult circumstances. This mindset separates those who grow from those who merely endure. Another essential part of his philosophy was service. Nightingale believed that success is always connected to contribution. Distraction often turns attention inward, toward comfort and self-indulgence. Focus, on the other hand, turns attention outward, toward value creation. He taught that the more useful a person becomes, the more successful they naturally become. Success, in his view, is a byproduct of usefulness. He also warned against the danger of envy and comparison. In a distracted world, people constantly measure themselves against others. Nightingale believed this was destructive because it shifts focus away from personal growth. He taught that each individual has a unique path and timetable. Comparing progress only creates frustration and distraction. True success comes from competing with one's past self, not with others. Nightingale placed immense value on learning, but he distinguished between information and wisdom. Distraction floods people with information, but wisdom requires reflection and application. He believed that learning without action is another form of procrastination. The purpose of knowledge, in his philosophy, was to improve thinking and guide behavior, not to impress or entertain. He often reminded his audience that fear thrives in distraction. When the mind is scattered, fear grows stronger. Focus, however, weakens fear by replacing uncertainty with purpose. Nightingale taught that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. This decision becomes easier when attention is fixed on a meaningful goal. Earl Nightingale also spoke about time as life's most precious resource. He believed that how a person spends their time reveals their true priorities. Distraction wastes time in small amounts that accumulate into years. Nightingale urged people to treat time with respect, using it intentionally rather than carelessly. He believed that mastery of time leads directly to mastery of life. At the center of his philosophy was the belief that human potential is far greater than most people realize. Distraction hides this potential by keeping people occupied with the trivial. Focus reveals it by directing energy toward growth and contribution. Nightingale believed that greatness is not reserved for a few, but available to anyone willing to discipline their mind and commit to a purpose. His teachings remind us that the world does not need to become quieter for us to succeed. We need to become stronger, stronger in thought, stronger in discipline, and stronger in commitment. In doing so, we rise above distraction and step into a life of deliberate success. Earl Nightingale believed that vision is the compass that keeps a person moving forward when distractions try to pull them off course. Without vision, effort becomes scattered and motivation fades. He taught that a clear mental picture of one's future acts as an anchor in uncertain times. In a world full of distractions, vision provides stability. It reminds the individual why they started and where they are going. He often spoke about the importance of rehearsing success in the mind. Nightingale understood that the mind responds to images more powerfully than to words alone. By repeatedly visualizing desired outcomes, a person strengthens their belief and sharpens their focus. Distractions lose power when the mind is occupied with purposeful imagery. This mental rehearsal, according to Nightingale, conditions the subconscious to work toward success automatically. Another essential element of his philosophy was responsibility for results. Nightingale rejected blame as a distraction disguised as explanation. Blame shifts attention away from solutions and onto excuses. He taught that successful individuals ask better questions, not who is at fault, but what can I do next? This forward-focused mindset protects attention and energy from being wasted on resentment. Nightingale also believed deeply in the idea of self-trust. In a distracted world, people constantly seek validation from others. Opinions multiply, advice conflicts, and confidence erodes. Nightingale taught that success requires learning to trust one's own judgment, once it has been informed by study and reflection. External noise fades when inner certainty grows. He warned that distractions often arrive disguised as opportunities. Not every opportunity is worth pursuing. Nightingale believed that focus requires sacrifice, and sacrifice requires discernment. Saying yes to everything is a guarantee of mediocrity. He taught that successful individuals choose their commitments carefully, understanding that every yes is also a no to something else. Earl Nightingale also spoke about resilience. Distractions become most tempting during moments of difficulty. When progress slows or obstacles appear, the mind seeks comfort. Nightingale believed that resilience is built by staying engaged with the goal during these moments. Each time a person resists distraction and persists, their inner strength increases. He placed great emphasis on integrity. According to Nightingale, success without integrity leads into emptiness. Distraction often pulls people away from their values, encouraging shortcuts and compromises. Nightingale taught that alignment between values and actions creates inner peace, which strengthens focus. A divided mind is easily distracted, but a principled mind is steady. Another important concept in his philosophy was self-renewal. Nightingale understood that focus does not mean exhaustion. He believed in purposeful rest, learning, and reflection. Distraction drains energy without restoring it, while intentional renewal strengthens the mind. He encouraged people to balance effort with recovery, ensuring long-term productivity rather than burnout. Nightingale also spoke about leadership as influence through example. He believed that focused individuals naturally inspire others. In a distracted world, calm and clarity stand out. Those who know where they are going and move steadily toward it become sources of confidence for others. Leadership, in his view, begins with self-mastery. He reminded people that success is deeply personal. Society often defines success in terms of money, status, or recognition. Nightingale challenged this narrow definition. He taught that true success is living in harmony with one's purpose and values. Distraction pushes people to chase external symbols rather than internal fulfillment. Focus redirects attention toward what truly matters. Earl Nightingale's philosophy also emphasized gratitude. He believed that gratitude strengthens focus by grounding the mind in the present. Distraction often arises from dissatisfaction and comparison. Gratitude counters this by reminding individuals of their progress and blessings. A grateful mind is calmer, clearer, and more resilient. As his teachings matured, Nightingale became increasingly concerned about the future of human attention. He foresaw a world where information would be abundant, but wisdom scarce. His message was a warning, as much as it was an invitation. He urged people to reclaim their minds, to think deliberately, and to live intentionally. In the end, Earl Nightingale's philosophy of success in a world full of distractions can be summarized as a call to conscious living. He believed that life rewards those who pay attention to thoughts, actions, and purpose. Distraction is not merely an inconvenience, it is a threat to potential. Focus, on the other hand, is a gateway to freedom. His words remind us that success is not found by chasing the world, but by mastering oneself within it. And in a world that constantly demands our attention, choosing where to place it becomes the most powerful decision we will ever make. Earl Nightingale believed that awareness is the first step toward transformation. Before a person can overcome distraction, they must first recognize how deeply it controls their life. He taught that most people are not lazy or incapable. They are simply unaware. They do not realize how often their attention is stolen, how frequently they abandon important tasks for trivial ones, and how rarely they think deliberately. Awareness, in Nightingale's philosophy, turns unconscious habits into conscious choices. He emphasized that the mind operates according to laws, just like the physical world. Whether a person understands these laws or not, they still function. Nightingale believed that distraction violates the natural law of focus. Just as scattered sunlight produces little heat, scattered effort produces little success. Concentrated attention, however, has the power to create extraordinary results. This principle was central to his teachings and repeated throughout his work. Nightingale also spoke about the danger of living in reaction mode. When a person constantly reacts to external events, they surrender control of their life. Distraction thrives on reaction. Notifications, interruptions, emergencies, and opinions. Nightingale taught that proactive living is the antidote. Proactive individuals decide in advance how they will spend their time and energy. They act from intention rather than impulse. Another cornerstone of his philosophy was self-education. Nightingale believed that formal education prepares a person to earn a living, but self-education prepares them to live a life. In a distracted world, learning becomes shallow and fragmented. He encouraged deep study, reflection, and application. Knowledge, when absorbed with focus, becomes wisdom. Wisdom, in turn, guides decision-making and strengthens discipline. He also emphasized that success requires emotional maturity. Distraction often appeals to emotion rather than reason. Anger, excitement, fear, and boredom can all derail focus. Nightingale taught that emotional control allows a person to remain steady regardless of external conditions. This steadiness becomes a competitive advantage in both life and work. Nightingale often reminded his audience that success is cumulative. Small decisions, repeated daily, create massive outcomes over time. Distraction interrupts this accumulation by breaking momentum. He taught that protecting momentum is essential. Once progress begins, it must be guarded fiercely. Momentum, in his view, is fragile at first, but powerful once established. He also spoke about courage as a mental discipline. Courage is required to remain focused when others are distracted, to continue when others quit, and to pursue a vision that others cannot see. Nightingale believed that courage grows through action. Each time a person resists distraction and chooses purpose, their confidence increases. Another powerful element of his philosophy was simplicity. Nightingale believed that complexity is often a form of avoidance. Distraction hides behind complexity, convincing people that success requires complicated systems or extraordinary circumstances. He taught that clarity simplifies life. When a person knows what they want and why they want it, decisions become easier and distractions less appealing. Nightingale also spoke about legacy. He believed that success is not only about personal achievement, but about the impact one leaves behind. Distraction shortens perspective, focusing attention on the present moment. Focus extends perspective, allowing individuals to think in terms of years, decades, and generations. Nightingale encouraged people to ask themselves what kind of influence they wanted to have on the world. He warned that comfort is one of the most subtle distractions. Comfort numbs ambition and dulls awareness. Nightingale believed that growth requires a certain level of discomfort. This discomfort signals learning, stretching, and progress. Avoiding discomfort, he taught, leads to stagnation. As he reflected on human potential, Nightingale remained optimistic. He believed that every person has the ability to rise above distraction and live a purposeful life. The challenge is not capacity, but commitment. Commitment to thinking, to discipline, and to long-term vision. His philosophy was never about fighting distractions aggressively, but about outgrowing them. When purpose becomes strong enough, distractions naturally fade. When vision becomes clear enough, noise becomes irrelevant. Nightingale taught that success is less about eliminating obstacles and more about strengthening focus. In the final analysis, Earl Nightingale's teachings offer a roadmap for modern life. They remind us that attention is the gateway to achievement, and that how we use our minds determines the quality of our lives. In a world full of distractions, those who master their thoughts master their future. Earl Nightingale's philosophy ultimately leads to one unavoidable truth. The quality of a person's life is determined by the quality of their thinking. In a world increasingly designed to distract, this truth becomes both a warning and an opportunity. Nightingale believed that while technology, society, and circumstances may evolve, the fundamental laws governing human success remain unchanged. Those who understand and apply them rise. Those who ignore them drift. He often reminded people that life does not ask for permission before passing by. Days turn into weeks, weeks into years, and suddenly, a lifetime is behind us. Distraction accelerates this process by keeping people occupied but unfulfilled. Nightingale urged individuals to wake up before time slips away, to stop postponing meaningful work, and to begin living with intention. He believed that regret is not caused by failure, but by the realization that one never truly tried. One of Nightingale's most enduring beliefs was that purpose gives life meaning. Without purpose, success feels empty, and effort feels heavy. Distraction thrives where purpose is absent. When people do not know why they are doing something, they quickly lose motivation. Nightingale taught that a clearly defined purpose acts as fuel, sustaining focus even when challenges arise. Purpose transforms discipline from burden into devotion. He also emphasized that success is deeply internal before it becomes external. Wealth, recognition, and achievement are reflections of inner order. Distraction creates inner disorder, conflicting desires, scattered goals, and divided attention. Nightingale believed that when the inner world is aligned, the outer world follows naturally. Peace of mind, he taught, is not the result of success. It is the cause of it. Nightingale's own life stood as evidence of his philosophy. He did not chase fame or trends. He committed himself to teaching timeless principles, trusting that truth would outlast noise. His voice, calm and deliberate, cut through the chaos of his era and continues to resonate today. This endurance is proof of his belief that focused work creates lasting impact. He encouraged people to measure success not by comparison, but by growth. Distraction constantly invites comparison, pulling attention outward. Nightingale redirected attention inward, asking individuals to evaluate whether they were becoming better, wiser, and more capable versions of themselves. Progress, he taught, is the true indicator of success. Another central theme in his philosophy was hope grounded in action. Nightingale rejected blind optimism. He believed that hope must be supported by effort and discipline. Distraction weakens hope by creating the illusion of progress without substance. Focus strengthens hope by producing tangible results over time. This combination of belief and action formed the foundation of his teachings. Nightingale also believed that success carries responsibility. Those who master focus and achieve success have a duty to contribute, to teach, and to uplift others. Distraction isolates individuals in self-interest, while focus connects them to service. He viewed success as a means to expand influence for good, not merely personal gain. As the world becomes louder and more demanding, Nightingale's philosophy becomes increasingly rare, and increasingly valuable. He offered a way of living that does not depend on external calm, but on internal clarity. He taught that even in chaos, a focused mind can remain steady. Even in uncertainty, a purposeful individual can move forward. His message invites each generation to make a choice: to drift or to direct, to react or to create, to surrender attention or to reclaim it. Nightingale believed that this choice determines everything else. Success, fulfillment, and peace all begin with how we choose to think. In the end, Earl Nightingale did not teach people how to escape the world. He taught them how to master themselves within it. He believed that the greatest freedom a human being can achieve is freedom of thought, the ability to choose focus over distraction, purpose over impulse, and growth over comfort. His philosophy stands as a timeless reminder that while the world will always compete for our attention, only we can decide where it belongs. And in that decision lies the power to shape a life of meaning, achievement, and lasting impact. Bonus epilogue: Earl Nightingale's message for the modern mind. If Earl Nightingale were speaking to the world today, his message would be sharper, calmer, and more urgent than ever. He would not raise his voice to compete with the noise. He would lower it, knowing that truth does not need volume, only attention. In an age dominated by screens, speed, and endless stimulation, Nightingale's philosophy would stand as a quiet rebellion against mental chaos. He would remind us that the modern world is not dangerous because it is fast, but because it is unfocused. Never before has humanity had access to so much information, yet never before has clarity been so rare. Nightingale would argue that intelligence is no longer the deciding factor for success. Attention is. Those who can hold their attention on a meaningful goal will outperform those who cannot, regardless of talent. Nightingale believed that the mind is sacred territory. What enters it shapes identity, behavior, and destiny. Today, that territory is constantly invaded by notifications, opinions, outrage, and entertainment engineered to be addictive. He would warn that allowing unrestricted access to the mind is the modern equivalent of leaving one's home unlocked. Discipline, in this context, becomes an act of self-protection. He would also speak about the illusion of connection. Social noise gives the feeling of belonging, yet often increases loneliness. Nightingale believed that real fulfillment comes from purposeful work and inner alignment, not external approval. He would caution that chasing validation weakens character and scatters focus. True confidence, he taught, grows quietly through competence and consistency. In the modern economy, Nightingale would emphasize that adaptability begins with mindset. Jobs change, industries evolve, and technology advances, but the disciplined mind remains valuable in every era. He would say that those who master learning, focus, and self-direction will never be obsolete. Distraction, not automation, is the real threat to human relevance. He would also remind people that anxiety is often a symptom of unfocused living. When the mind is pulled in too many directions, it becomes overwhelmed. Nightingale believed that peace is not found by escaping responsibility, but by organizing it. Clear goals, structured time, and deliberate thinking reduce mental clutter and restore calm. Nightingale would likely challenge the modern obsession with speed. Faster is not always better. He believed that depth creates excellence, and excellence creates demand. Those who slow down enough to think clearly often move further than those who rush blindly. In a distracted world, patience becomes a competitive advantage. He would also speak about courage in a new way. Today, Courage is not just about facing danger. It is about resisting distraction. It takes courage to focus when others scroll, to think when others react, and to build when others consume. Nightingale believed that quiet discipline is one of the highest forms of bravery. If asked about success today, Nightingale would likely say this: "Success belongs to those who can decide what matters and ignore the rest." This ability is rare, trainable, and priceless. It is not taught in schools, but it determines outcomes in every area of life. He would close by reminding us that life is always responding to us, whether we are aware of it or not. Our thoughts shape our actions shape our habits, and our habits shape our destiny. Distraction interrupts this chain. Focus restores it. Earl Nightingale's philosophy is not outdated. It is unfinished. Each generation must rediscover it and apply it to its own challenges. In today's world, mastering attention may be the highest form of success. And perhaps his final message would be this: the world does not need more noise. It needs more thinkers. It does not need more speed. It needs more direction. And it does not need more information. It needs more wisdom. That wisdom begins the moment a person chooses to think deliberately, no matter how loud the world becomes.